So for me, healing my inner child is all about giving myself permission and the opportunity to make choices that are for me, that benefit me. And so like I feel like in childhood I was really discouraged against some paths and choices because it wasn't what my parents would choose. And even as I was in a teenager mode, I was making a lot of bad choices. And it's interesting because I felt like I was harshly judged for those things. And then I would later do similar things to my kids when they were making some choices where they weren't as bad as mine, but like they were choices where I'm like, I'm afraid you're going to hurt yourself, right? And then I realized I can't be judging my kids for that because they're just like learning and growing. And so I had to go back and recall and apologize for, judging them, because I told them like I probably did way worse than what you did. And so for me to hold judgment on my child when they're learning to live life, and I'm still learning to live life, it felt really wrong to try to shame them. And although like you don't ever want to see your kids struggle, but it's in my struggle that has helped me feel my way around to find my answers, right? And so that's what another part of it is, like I have to watch out not to micromanage and try to constantly be advising when I'm not being asked, because that makes them feel sort of like like I don't trust them and that they're not capable. And you can see others making mistakes, and that can be true. At the same time, like trying to oversuggest to them can make them feel, I think, sort of like I would feel like a rejection, right? Because like you see, it's almost like don't you think I can do this? And even if I can't, let me figure out that I can't do this. Don't don't stop me in my mid action to tell me that I don't think I can do this. Like, be there for answers when I ask, and along the way support me. And I think it's important to like ask questions so that they can think of the answers, but instead of like telling them don't do this, be like, well, if you're gonna do that, like, have you thought about this, like what like, and without fear mongering, right? And so I think as a child I was just discouraged against doing anything, and like kind of like I think that's where that comes from, where I feel like it's hard to breathe, because it's like I feel like anything I do it feels like it's either wrong, or it's going to cost money, or I'm going to make a mess. And I don't think that was allowed in our house. And so like recognizing, learning, and reconnecting with my inner child, for me that says letting me make a mess. That says like there's times where I felt like when I was doing my garden, I'm like, I don't know if I should water my plants because water is expensive. And that seems odd when we see other people like abusing the water system for their own benefits, but then making us pay like such high prices just to try to grow things in our garden, which I think is like it's a that's a healthy habit. Like if I can learn how to grow plants, now I can grow my own food. And so like in learning about plants, I can actually learn how to take care of myself at the same time. And so getting in connect with my inner child was allowing me to make a mess, allowing me to mess up. This is where it comes down to money as well. I've had to learn through messing up, through money, and that's some of the harder lessons, is spending money I didn't have, and learning how to make money. Learning how to make money on my own is like that is probably the most challenging skill that I'm learning right now. Is I don't know how to make money. I don't, without like somebody else, like working under somebody else. And so while I feel like I have so many leadership skills to offer, it's very different when you don't have financial backing. So I also want to understand like how people do this, because for me, it's like staying in those 9-to-5 environments while I'm trying to build something on the side was not working for me. Sorry, that screen is flashing and bugging me. And so it's really challenging to try to do both. And while I attempted to, work in a 9-to-5 while I tried to build my business, that did not work well for me. And it can be the way I did it. And so reconnecting with my inner child says, part of the reasons why I had issues with the 9-to-5s is like, when I see something happening, I want to speak on it. You know those videos where they get the parents who like they're responding to a contest or something, and their kids are sitting with them, and they want to see what their kids are going to do when they're lying about something, and the kids, like a lot of these kids are like, you know, they're like nudging mom and they're like speaking out on camera, and then one of the kid just left the video because he's like, I'm not backing this, and those are kids. And so like, why are kids, some kids, like they're able to do that, but then as adults we're not allowed to speak out on the truth? Because why? You know, that's such a weird behavior. And there's certain things that I find interesting, like um so I just had to look at things, and like my idea of like inner child, and while part of it meant like grieving, like I thought my inner child was holding all this emotional pain, which it was, but also it was like I had to recognize what I didn't receive as a child. And then part of my inner child healing isn't just about grieving what I didn't receive and like that trauma that I experienced, but also the patterns that it created into my adulthood that now I have to unlearn and relearn by myself, because my parents decided not to engage in that sort of education, and this is just even life experience. So like it's been left on me, you know, to do this for myself. And it's challenging because, like I said in other videos, like these are things that you're meant to learn from the ages of 0 to 5, because like the brain at that time, there really shouldn't be any fear associated with like what you're learning. It's just like you're just learning, and learning is fun. But learning is not so fun, and you're not so receptive when you're stressed out and you're living in lack, because now you're defensive and now you're protective, because when you're in certain environments and if we're prey to certain people, now you're not just, how are you supposed to retain any information, and how are you supposed to absorb things when you're defensive? Like you're closed off, you're stressed out, and I find I can't learn like that. That's not how I learn. When I'm safe, and when I'm given the space and the time and the resources to learn. So it's almost like this system is designed by somebody who is unaware of how the abusive individual works or doesn't work. You know, and so like having to do a second careers, I tried that, but I was still like coming out of a situation where I was experiencing PTSD from working in a workplace for 2 years, being sexually harassed and gang stalked by a bunch of girls. And I'm going to say girls, even though they're my age and older. They're extreme. I don't even want to say girls. They're bullies. You know what I mean? And girls are, not all girls are bullies. So these are bullies. These are adult women bullies. And in management, you know. And so like all of that coming out of that's a system, because it was by design and it is by choice that these people did that, all of them. And then I thought I was, you know, I took a year off and I thought that was enough, but then I was also under pressure to do something because my money was struggling, and like there's not a lot of jobs out there, and the jobs that are out there don't pay anything for what they expect from you. It's like you really don't have any control in this situation, because you either, like if I want to go and show up at a job that's cost 20 or pays me $20 an hour, I can show up with $20 an hour energy, but like they're going to require, like they're going to kind of peer pressure, they're going to have expectations, there's going to be you know, there's going to be comments made and insinuations created, you know, there's going to be looks, and so it's just, so like you got to play stupid in order to not work your full tier. You know, it's such a, and that's suppressive, you know. And I definitely feel like that growing up, I felt like I had to play dumb in order to like fit in. I definitely feel like that happened. You know, on my report cards I had a lot of potential. Where did that potential go? Why was that potential not developed, you know? And I just don't feel like that's how parenting was. We don't spend time with the kids. We just have kids, and they're here like furniture, and they're good for our numbers, and this is the life that we want, and this is how our kids fill that frame, and there we go. And that's kind of how it was. I looked forward to having fun with my kids. I love playing with babies. I love playing with kids, and I love playing with my kids that are older. You know, I just like playing games, and I don't remember like playing much. Well, we did have a crocodile board. Like, I don't know that we really, I just don't remember those things. And so my inner child connection is starting to give myself time and space to make a mess, but at the same time it is challenging as an adult, because like I'm running out of time. So I don't know really how this is gonna work moving forward. But I do know that part of this inner child healing is getting in connection with my heart and doing things that I love and that are for me. and hope that that will show up in some form of monetization, a workplace that can value what I have to offer, my skill set. I have not met a lot of people that are considerate like me and are able to communicate and still stay connected, but like a real communication, you know? So I've had to soften my messages for a lot of people because they can't handle like the full version of my truth when it comes to them. And I'm getting very tired of sidestepping people and tiptoeing around their feelings when I feel like they're, you know, dishonest to me in nature, and it's really frustrating. And so like I think that's also coming back to my inner child, is like, you know, being honest like children are, to a point where it's just like, you know what, if you don't want the honest truth, maybe be more honest with yourself and deal with it before, you know, you inflict your pain onto other people. And not to be rude, because I don't think kids have to be rude. I think some kids may be rude, but I don't think that's what this is about. I just think, you know what, permission to talk, permission to speak and be seen. You know, we always have those like auditions and plays when you're younger, and the idea is like everyone has a part to play, so they all feel included. And that's based on, usually you want to try to find like whose interests, you know, some people want to be the star. Some people, I did lights and I felt good being on the sidelines, or like doing the lights one time and part of the AV team. I didn't know how the lights worked. I just was told like, you know, I think I had, I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure I had some sort of like instruction on when the lights go on and off, and that was about it. And I felt important in that role, and that was good for me. I didn't need to be on the stage in the center. I didn't like that. I don't like being center stage like that. That's uncomfortable for me. And so I think there are some behind the scenes, you know, some people are meant to be on stage and they can be entertaining, and that's fine, but like it's not all about them all the time. Like you have to make room for the people in the back. And say like, you know what, like that's great, you're on stage, but what about, let's give credit to, you know, the lights people, the sound systems, you know, the people who set up the display around you, the stage. Like it can't just be all about the celebrities. Like it is all about the celebrities though, you know, like we never hear about who did this, who did the costume, like sometimes about the costumes, but like who did their hair, who did their makeup. Like I think it's like there needs to be, you know, I really appreciate when we have moments where we can appreciate the people that are considered like blue class, is that blue collar, you know, like when the truckers had their moment. But like it shouldn't be just, I mean, it's a moment, but it needs to be like, you know, we have 365 days of the year. Can we not take each day to like, you know, appreciate a career position or a workplace, you know, spot, I guess. I don't have the right words. I don't know that I'm ever going to have the right words, but you know what I'm saying. 365 days a year. There are, you know, so many different workers and laborers. Why would we not appreciate one every day of the week? Like kind of thing. Like why not? Why can't we? And it doesn't even have to be, it's just like, you know what, the same thing for every person. So like maybe one day it's firemen, one day it's Tim Hortons, you know, cafe workers, and maybe because like we all add a piece to the puzzle. We're all important here, but yet the only people that are prioritized are like these bosses, who are meant to be leaders. But like look at the mess we're in. There's a lack of leaders that are actually getting paid. You know, there's a lot of people that are fighting for our people and they're not getting paid for it. And then the people that are in the position to help us and meant to support us are doing, you know, F all for humanity. So I just think, you know what? Our inner child says we appreciate everyone, but we take time out to appreciate everyone. You know, and this isn't like one person over the other. This is saying like, you know what? You lay floors? I don't want to lay floors. I hate laying floors. I would love that you would come and put my floor in. And the fact that you do a quality job, I guess is like, this is what reviews are, right? But at the same time, I don't know. I like the idea of like appreciating everyone, and even if they're not in the spotlight. That's what I like. Because we all have our roles to play here. We're all important. Whether we realize it or not, we're all important. We all have a position to play. I don't know. And so I think inner child is like recognizing like my weird quirk is maybe not yours, but like you don't have to hate me because you don't have to make fun of me because you don't understand it. I don't know how to make videos. I'm just doing whatever I can. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I see other videos. I'm like, good job. That's good work. And so I'm just trying to fit together whatever I think is helpful to connect with people, to inspire people. I want to inspire people because I think there's a lot of people where I've experienced like where they push you down, and I'm kind of sick of that because it feels like it's like very black and white instead of all the colors in between, where it's like there's so many people that are like, just like, why do they get paid less? Because that one person at the Tim Hortons window can make my day, where, you know, this fucking politician who has control but chooses not to use it, and is greedy and really diminishes us as a whole, like he's getting paid buckets of money. And he is definitely like on, like, this is more than just a wet blanket. This is an iron fist that is being, you know, punching across all across Canada. I mean, I'm in Canada, but this is more than just Canada. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only solution, but I think as a whole we have to start learning that we all have a path and that we all have a purpose, and like stepping into that purpose. And it doesn't always mean we're always in the spotlight and that we always have thousands of subscribers and things, but we still have a message. We have something to say. We have something to show. Someone can connect with us somehow, even if it's just in one video, maybe not necessarily in a ring that bell subscription, but like a, hey, that message helped. That made me feel seen and heard. Like, I matter too. I matter to you. You know, and sometimes it's hard, like, because you get tired, and I'm tired of like, I don't enjoy, I've been carrying a heavy burden with me all through life, so it makes it hard for me to connect with people. And so I'm not at that stage where I really want to connect with people, but I also need to speak on what I've witnessed in my life so that other people can pick that up. And whether you're on the receiving end or not, and if you're acknowledging you may be part of the problem or not, that's for you to decide. And so, like, my message is not to judge others, but to let you know, like, if you're behaving in a way that doesn't empower yourself, and it really puts other people in a uncomfortable position, that maybe you need to do better. I need to do better. Everyone needs to do better. What is the problem with doing better? I don't understand, like, why people feel so rejected when they say, like, I can't connect with you because we're not compatible. Like, that's a behavioral issue, you know? And maybe you don't get what you want. Maybe that person doesn't want to be romantic with you. Like, life has to go on. That means that's a lack mentality. If you think this one person isn't picking you, that shouldn't be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, as children, like, where do they learn that? Where it's like they have to be part of this crew, and like there's mean girls. And when does that start? And when does it stop? Like, when does it ever stop? I need to know when this does this ever stop? Like, what starts that? It's so gross. Like, everybody deserves shelter and food and a warm bed. How do we not, how as a whole can we not ensure that everyone has a home and food at this point, with all this money that is in play right now? And we can't ensure everybody has warm meals and a warm, safe place, whether it be a pod or not. I don't really give a crap, but it needs to be something where you feel safe and you can really rest your head and feel like you're provided for until you can figure out how to make more money. Like, there should be like a base level income that is survivable, and where you can actually feel safe and secure while you figure out your life and learn life lessons, with maybe, how about some support, somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, and someone who's not going to run you into a dead end. Like, where is that? Sign me up for that program, because like what is going on right now in the world is not helpful. And even for the children, I'm an adult still trying to connect with my inner child. Can you imagine our kids out there, what they're going through? Because a lot of these parents, when I look at these comments about tough love, screw gentle parenting, bring in that tough love, like that was so beneficial to us. Being seen and not heard, treated like furniture, that's super caring. Good job, mom and dad, good job. Like, you can't even admit that you fucked up. That's so my way or the highway. That's so God complex, and nobody can see that. The wrong people are running this world. Gotta listen to the kids. The kids know a lot more than they give you know, credit to. And while, you know, some of them are, you know, a little lost in their ways, but they have the right intention. There's a lot, they just need guidance in some ways. you know, but like that's not their fault. It's like what they're walking into. It's like getting mad because a kid walked into a muddy room and got mud on the floor, but the mud was already in the room, and now we're mad at the kid because they're trying to like they're tracking mud into the carpet. Like, you guys brought the mud in, you let the mud sit there, and now you want me to what, how somehow walk over the mud? Like, make it make sense. You dudes made the mess, you didn't clean it up, and now you want me to be successful? Like, it's such a fucked up way of thinking. How do you raise kids like that? It's so entitled and a lack of accountability. People need to show and lead by example. How did I do this? How am I doing this? How do you do this? And if they're not, then maybe they're not doing it. You know, and maybe we need to hold some people accountable. Like, we need to get in the government and be like, you know what? Why are you letting this roll on for so long? Why are you letting this man remain in power? How are all of us seeing the issues with this man, but the people who hold him there? And it's not just about us. Like, there's got to be some sort of other person outside of our prime minister that is holding him accountable, right? And at some point, we have to figure something out. And it's challenging because, like I said, a lot of us are just trying to figure our own way out. And the people who have money, they don't really give a shit because the water levels haven't reached them yet. So they don't really care. They don't feel the pressure. They don't feel, their shoes aren't soaking wet. You know, their pants aren't wet. My pants aren't either. Just metaphorically. Like, they're dry and comfortable. Inside, you know, they got all their food. You know, it's just crazy. So for me, my inner child is choosing me this time. And I don't know how to do this, but I know that I can't keep doing what the old system required me to do, to show up without questioning, without speaking up. So that's what I'm doing. My inner child says, I'm going to speak up. I don't care if you like the message. It's here. You're going to hear it. You have a choice. You can subscribe or not. You can flick it off. I don't really care anymore. I'm going to show up. I'm going to start speaking about things. Unfortunately, the judicial system doesn't allow me to name names. But I think it's important to start speaking our stories. And I think we need to start voicing our concerns, but I also think we have to lead with action. And so the more of us that start connecting with our inner child, which is doing things that we love and getting paid for it, because like it's just revising it and making it better. Whatever you love, you're going to glow up doing. That's going to attract your crew. It might take a little bit. Let me tell you from experience, this does not happen overnight. But it's not really meant to, because like even if it were to happen overnight, where would you learn the lessons? You didn't like, this took a lifetime. This has taken decades that you have to now unlearn that training. And it happens for you, but it's super fucking uncomfortable. And it's not fun. It's not fun like in the sandbox. It's not fun like building blocks. And like, it's not fun. Like, I remember in school, my teacher would encourage us to write stories, and then she would like make like bindings and things with cardboard and wallpaper and duct tape, and she would bring it back and she would type all the, you know, per page, and then we illustrate each page. And I love that. I think that was so fun. But and yeah, I would like to write children's books, I think, in some way. I don't know. I mean, I want to do it in a way where I don't know how to do it yet, but it's something I definitely would like to do. But these things take time, and this is where the financial support needs to be happening. And how do you not understand that this is not me just being the first person being like, oh my God, do you guys know what? Like, this is, oh my God, this is how inner child works. I'm not like some pioneer. You don't think people have come up with these answers before? Of course it's been out there, but it's not been incorporated. It's not been taken seriously because it's for some reason, like, this is gonna, you know, it doesn't tie in with the greed at the top, right? Which that tells you everything. Who's in power? They may have a friendly face, they may talk like they, you know, I really don't know that I have a party that I would go for at this point, because I think all the politicians in place, I've seen some shady shit from all of them. And I really used to think I rocked with one, and I'm in Canada, but like, I think I've seen some red flags there too. I have seen some red flags there too, with the man that has the slick back hair. And while he seems to have better intentions than the one that's in power now, I don't know that his intentions are fully pure and true. And some people are going to argue maybe about that. But remember, if they can't recognize the problem, that means they don't have the experience to look for it, right? So like for me, when I heal myself, it's because now I can recognize it in other people, and now I can either, protect myself, but I'm also going to protect my people. I'm going to be telling my kids about this. I'm going to, and sometimes they don't want to hear it. But at least I'm here for it, and I've done the work to see it. And so I think it's important to start, I think that's part of what an inner child is like, when you learn that at a young age, it's like you don't tolerate anything else, because that's what you learn at a young age, is confidence, curiosity, asking questions. And so someone shut that shit down when you're young. Who was that? And are they willing to do different? Those are people I would not spend around. That's not going to benefit my inner child. And a lot of people, when you're trying to engage with your inner child and learn what you never got a chance to learn, they're going to try to affect that and influence it. And I think it's because they might have had a similar experience as you did. So something about that. I think some people are honestly intrigued, but some people are triggered. And I get triggered. And I gotta figure that out by myself. I don't gotta direct that at a person. I gotta understand, why am I feeling triggered? I run towards a trigger, because I know that's where the answers are. And it helped me learn about my emotions and what was making me feel emotional. And it made me feel unsafe, because you know what? When I'm doing these things, like the idea was like I would have reacted emotionally, because that's what a scared child does when they don't know what's happening and they don't know what's going on. But I wasn't allowed to express that. I had to behave like I was brave in times where I felt so scared and I didn't know what the fuck was happening, and I didn't know why, and I wasn't allowed to later ask questions. What was going on there? I wasn't allowed to question authority. I wasn't allowed to say, this is uncomfortable, why are you doing that? Nobody taught me about bathing suit areas. Nobody taught me about like inappropriateness. It just said don't talk to strangers, period. Nobody talked about touching. I didn't get touched in the family home. I didn't get any sort of touching, so we didn't talk about any kind of touching. We didn't talk about can I ask for a hug? I need a hug right now? Those conversations didn't happen. So those are things I'm having to do now as an adult, is recognize like where I'm looking to be held or hugged. Like I have to find my own way to comfort myself now as an adult child, instead of looking for ways where I thought, things were encouraged in our society. Casual sex is not a hug. It's not hitting that same spot, and it's actually making that inner child feel less safe, because your message board is confused, because you've been told certain things, and you've been encouraged to be seen as less than, and so you don't value yourself, and you don't have any sort of self-worth, so you think this is as good as it gets. And so as an inner child healing, I also have to encourage myself to keep going when no one else thinks I'm going to be able to go anywhere. And I have to keep pushing myself, because no one else is pushing me forward. There's people trying to push me back into past patterns, but I don't have someone here encouraging me. So now I have to show up for my inner child, and I have to figure out how to do that. I don't know how to do that. No one did it for me. I don't know what that looks like. I can look on the internet. I can try and give to my kids what I think that means for them. I can ask them, how do you best feel supported by me? What do you like? What don't you like? We've had those conversations. That doesn't mean I'm going to know how to do it right away, but I have to put in effort. And so like these parents of your past are not interested in doing anything different and learning on ways to how, I know I fucked up then, but how can I support you now? Those aren't conversations that are happening. Those are not changing, growing people. That's not curiosity. That's God complex. And so I have to recognize where some of these belief systems have bled onto me, and I have to recognize where this is not helping or hindering. This is like blocking me. This is like not okay. This is like really sorry, not that it's not helping, but it's hindering. And but not also like recognizing like this is just how we're meant to grow, but I couldn't do it back then. I didn't have, I didn't have the information. So now I have to do it now while I'm trying to figure out my money, while I'm trying to figure out my food, while I'm trying to figure out, everything. It's like, it's a lot. Like, just to figure out, how to be successful, that's a lot to learn. Like, you're literally growing up as an adult with adult responsibilities. And like, I was, what do you call it? Like, parentified as a child, but like, I didn't get to be a kid, and I didn't get those lessons in life, but I also like had to be responsible for my parents' responses and emotional responses, and like not only had to watch out for the ticking time bombs, but I also had to be there to comfort them after the ticking time bombs. And then I also had to smile and act like it's no big deal, and that my system knows that was a big deal. Every time those time bombs went off, it was a big deal. It affects me. That's why people are like, I only drink once in a while. When I do, I'm sorry if I got loud. I sorry I lost my temper. I had to stop. I had to, for my kids, even like recognizing like where I was overstressed and things, like once in a while was not good enough. It was still not good enough. Like, it's not as bad as that person, but it still was not good enough, because I had ticking time bomb moments, because I had all these people that were trying to sabotage my life. I was working so hard, and like these bullies were just financially abusive and like just making shit up and fucking with my life. And they didn't care, because they had a life that they felt as solid. Like, I mean, that's gonna be their own lesson. I don't see that as solid personally. And I think whenever you get comfortable in your situation, that's a perfect time for the universe to come in and shake things up. When you think that you are secure and settled, when you're being unstable as a human towards especially other people. But that is not my job or responsibility, and I don't take that on, whether it's family or not. So I had to recognize, in order to unlearn and learn, I had to prioritize certain things in my life, and I had to stop taking on other responsibilities, especially the ones that weren't mine, but also like other people's expectations of where I should be at what age. And those were expectations I had of myself too. Like, they came from other people, but like if I told you I'm where I wanted to be right now, that would be a lie. I'll tell you where I want to be right now. I want to be in a position where I have money to renovate my home, or at least move into a different home. Either or. I mean, maybe I do. It's just not going to be the home that I thought it would be. And that's kind of how I roll with the punches. Maybe I'm meant to move into an apartment that's maybe all fixed up and less responsibilities for me. And like I said before, like maybe that's the path I'm meant to move onto. It'll free up some time for me and allow me to have some fun. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Is that going to be a hard pill to swallow? Definitely. Like I said, I put a lot of work into this home. I put a lot of work into many of my homes, but then I'm gonna, hopefully if I do have to move, I'll move into a home that someone has put a lot of love into as well. And so, yeah. It's having that childlike mentality, like I don't have to keep harboring all this pain moving forward. And like holding on to other people's belief systems is what keeps me stuck, because that's what was important to them. If I make a mess and I fuck this up and I have to sell my home, then I have to acknowledge, you know what, I need to learn more. Like the kid that falls down, they don't cuss at themselves and say, you idiot. They get back up and try again and say, you know what, I got to figure this out. Maybe I need to put my arms out for balance this time. Maybe I need to keep my guard up. Maybe that's what needs to happen. And so like, not like judging myself harshly for the mistakes that I'm making, but acknowledge like I'm still trying, I'm still going. And it makes sense. I'm going to make mistakes. Expect to have failure. That is like, if you don't expect to have any sort of failure, and if you expect perfection in an area where you have no experience, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. But somebody tried to make you feel like you couldn't mess up. Someone had such high expectations without any sort of guidance or support or kindness or compassion or grace, for you to reach these levels of success, levels that they couldn't reach themselves, but require you to, so that somehow this shines down on them, like they're the parent that created this great individual who is in high status. Like, can you imagine? It's such craziness. And so like the idea of like where I should be right now is really something that needs to be revised. And it's a work in progress. I mean, my shutters, the paint is peeling, and that was an issue. And I'm like, people can see that my shutters are peeling, and I can't address that. That felt like, people could see what was going on the outside of my home, and it started to show. that I could not keep up with the maintenance of this house. Like I said, I didn't think it'd be that hard to find a person to partner with. Like I really did not think, because I saw everyone doing it so effortlessly and easily, but then I started seeing these people that are coupled together and they're miserable and they're doing it for money and they're not doing it for happiness. And then like that's why these people are so miserable, because like what in the moment was impulsive, they convince themselves like this is a great decision. And they realize after it's kind of like waking up the next morning and looking over at the person that you're laying next to, and like maybe there was no alcohol involved, but there was a lack mindset that made me think that if I don't grab onto this person, I might not be able to carry on by myself. Like not trusting yourself, self-doubting yourself. And these are all things that have been passed down from your parents. They didn't trust you. And it doesn't all have to be negative intentions, but like at some point you have to recognize, like, I don't like when this is happening to me, so I don't really like that I'm doing it to my kids. And that's what self-awareness is. It's acknowledging like, okay, like I don't like treating people like this. And I don't like being treated like that. And it's how you teach your kids. So why do we treat our kids like that? We expect our kids to behave in a certain way, and yet we yell and demean our kids. We get stressed out and take it out on them, and they're just trying to do the best they can with what they have. You don't think they'd want to do better? You don't think something's stopping them from doing better? You never asked any questions. And you never asked yourself any questions. You just keep going down this path that is not meant for you and wondering why it's not working, and then wondering why you need all these things to de-stress. And if you were just to live a life that was wonderful to you, then you don't need all these stressors, these inhibitors or whatever, and these pills and these supplements and these products and these everything. This consumerism era is because we're not living a life that we love. And somebody's convinced us that this is the way the world has to be. So the inner child says, no, we need to start from scratch. We need to have a fresh perspective. We need to be curious. We need to ask questions. And we need to be okay with the answers, whether we like it or not. It's a mess we've made, and we have to clean it up whether we like it or not. As a society, the mess has been made. We can no longer blame this on demons and devils and entities. Like, this is human behavior. That's what's happening here. It's not spiritual this and that, and it's not God's wrath on earth. It's humans being human. And unfortunately, with social media, we've been able to see the reality of that situation, and people are blaming social media now for that, and for the realness that is actually on the screen, and how a lot of us humans behave for attention, and what we're willing to sell ourselves for in order to get attention. And that's what people are judging, and they're not looking at, what am I not giving my kid? Why is that woman feeling like she has to reveal all of her body and exploit her body on screen to get peanuts in her pockets? Like, that's gross energy. She's literally selling her soul for that. And even with men do the same thing. There are men out there working their bodies, slaving their bodies to the bone, and they're getting money for it, but like they're being drained. That is not a lifetime. You're not meant to slave your body for a lifetime. And all that money that you make goes back into like trying to, numb the pain that you're feeling because you hate the job that you're doing. I remember when I was a letter carrier, I used to consider it a pretty fair wage, and while I wasn't good with my money, when I got home, I'd been walking for 3 to 4 hours. I was starving. So now I'm like, you're walking for 3 to 4 hours. That's heavy exercise on your body. That's not just exercise, that's wear and tear. And then you got to replace your shoes often. You got to get special gear to be out in all the elements. You got to buy electrolyte drinks and things. Like, there's extra costs here. And so when you add the extra cost of these jobs that you're working, and they're removing that innocence that you had as a child and that curiosity, and now you're stuck in this stone wall of belief systems of like, I can't do anything different. That's where your inner child disappears and hides. Like, it's not safe to come out. That money isn't worth it. That money isn't worth selling your soul for. It's not worth doing something you hate. While it seems like a good idea in the long run, it's only a good idea from those who are not willing to engage in anything new. Those who see making a mess as an issue. Let your kids pour a glass of milk. Let them make the mess. If it means them becoming more independent of self, like, isn't that a win-win? Like, now they get to do things for themselves. But some people don't like that. They say, we like it for this much. We don't like it when it goes over here. If they're going to leave the nest, we don't like that. It's because these parents are controlling their kids. let them leave the nest for a bit, and if they want to, they'll come back, and if not, that's a time for you to reflect. What did you do wrong? What could you have done better? How can you do better? Not judging your kid and ungrateful kid. I provided them a house to live in. I gave them bottom of the barrel food. If I had what I had when I was a kid, they wouldn't survive. Well, I don't know if that's really true. And while some of it may be true, like, why would you want to make your kids experience your harsh environment? If it did numbers on you, why the fuck would you want to put your kid through that? You know, I mean, I think kids need to learn for sure. And are we all right? No, we mess up. But at the same time, like, yes, we want our kids to grow. They have to learn responsibility. But to just do that in such a cold, harsh manner, that's hard. And there's some ways I've dealt with my kids, and it hasn't been warm and compassionate or kind or patient. And I definitely regret that. But I'm also learning from it. And I'm really trying to be like, when and if the time comes, so there's not just for the grandkids, but for my kids. I want to be a better version of myself. So, because that's what they deserve. That's what I deserve. We all deserve it. We all deserve our better versions of ourselves. And like, sometimes I think people just settle into it, and like, that's a lack of inner child connection. That's a lack of curiosity, a lack of questions, and a lack of speaking up. So that's kind of how I feel about inner child healing. I think, I know some people, I touched on this earlier, about how some people think it's about kind of goofing off and behaving like you're a 3-year-old in manner. I don't know. That's not something I've been drawn to. But you know what? Everyone has to figure it out for themselves. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. If you feel empowered. I remember seeing this one lady who, I think the video was showing her rolling around on the floor and exposing her crotch area. And it was in a video where they were rolling out a red carpet for her. And I thought at that moment, that was, I know it was hard to tell if she was like an actor or something, you know, like if she was performing or something. But the way she was exposing her body parts made me feel like that's something that has, she was raised to do that. It was really kind of, you know, like how animals will present their submissive areas. That's kind of what it felt that was happening there. And I just didn't think like that's what entertainment is now. I mean, you just have to kind of look at it to understand like something might be going on there, and maybe we don't post that. Maybe we've got a lot of other people here who, you know, when I roll out that red carpet, that you know, we get some really fun, engaging things. And but when this looks a little, it's kind of like with you know, certain celebrities that are posting videos of themselves, and we can see something's off there. Why are we, you know, it's so interesting what we keep on the internet and what we don't, you know, as a society. So I think the inner child is a chance for you to incorporate your leader and your voice and your truth, and really start speaking up about things. And it's interesting that we need children to do that instead of like the adults that are in the room. So just some food for thought.